right, and we got to the main event now here, Brian. And I've got to be honest with you, I was looking forward to this. Besides the fact that how long has it been since MJF has even wrestled on television? The blood and guts thing was the last time he wrestled, when Jericho took his phony bump that he's so concerned over and so, mad that everybody saw his crash pad.
I don't have it in front of me, and I wish I did, but someone had either tweeted or messaged me. They probably did to you too. I want to say that MJF had one singles match in 2021 on TV.
That sounds about right. Well, now he's had two. And Sammy Guevara, we talked about what a heel Sammy is with that slappable face. He looks like he's 12, but he works like a heel when he's a heel, and he has the squeaky voice like a heel, and he's got the slappable face. And as I mentioned, he looks like he's 12 years old. As a baby face, I know he's got a lot of fire and a lot of ability. And, I guess that's the way that this has taken him in. But he sure would have been a lot more effective and gotten over stronger if they'd have kept him a heel and kept him away from, everybody in that whole group is in Jericho's shadow, which is obviously because that shadow is so big. I mean, when he goes to the beach, kids play in his shade. But, anyway, I would have liked to seen Sammy as a heel longer so he'd be over more and have something more instead of just being in the group feud here, is have something more personal. But this was a wrestling match. MJF started heeling and strutting and bailing on Sammy. And Sammy started trying to do the flippy stuff, but MJF shut him down one time with a throat chop. They did wrestling spots. They did double bridges, backslides, small packages. They went to a stalemate and made mean faces at each other. This was a fucking wrestling match. I wrote MJF is actually healing. You can tell which one the heel is. Stopped Sammy on the apron and shot him into the barricade, that nice little upside down thing. They went to break. They came back on a hold. I've mentioned this before, but since they're listening now, they didn't used to listen to me. Since they're listening now, guys, it's very simple. Never come back from a commercial break in a fucking hold. Nobody's moving. There's no excitement. The people aren't reacting. The people at home who are watching the show, they got left with the break spot, which was supposed to be exciting, but now they come back and somebody's sitting in a chin lock. Create some more urgency. Make it more exciting. Always have guys come back in a spot. And it's very simple. I used to do it in Ring of Honor. If they could do it with the skeleton crew we had, anybody can. 10 seconds before you're ready to come back, cue the referee on the IFB. Tell him start running. Get in a spot. We're coming back. And they get up, and automatically out of the chin lock, there's a couple of elbows to the gut. And then the guy takes off running. Now you come back up. Now you're calling the spot. Brian Last ducks under Cornette's clothesline, comes off the far side, crossbody. Cornette catches him. Big sack of shit slam. We're back on fucking whatever kind of wrestling and now it's more exciting on the other side. They should always be in motion when you come back from a break instead of in a hold. Anyway, MJF is still getting the heat on old Sammy Guevara, trapped him in the ring skirt deal. And then finally, they went back and forth a little bit. MJF countered a springboard for a nice 2 count. They did that Spanish fly thing, off the ropes. They took too long to set up and was too obvious. That's all the guys that want to fight on the ropes and set up these stupid, complicated things. If you can't do it without obvious cooperation, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Because nobody was going to know you were going to do it anyway. And it just takes your match down when you show obvious cooperation after you're supposed to hate each other all this time. They were having a good fucking match. Sammy made another big comeback, hit that fucking dive. He had to do it, but at least he saved it till the end. And then the Canadian Destroyer for a 2 count, which is another ludicrous move, but MJF sells it so well. MJF is great at waiting around for all the goofy shit without being so obnoxiously obvious, right? So apparent. He staggers, he stumbles, he goes to a knee, he's not looking, he's not just like all these guys that just stand around and wait for this stupid idiot to dive off the top rope and they're staring at him for 10 seconds and then they catch him and act surprised, right? He puts himself in place without being so obvious. And MJF got a chair. He was going to come in, but Sammy drop kicked it right into his face. And at this point, I wrote, and this will come back to haunt me, this is one of the best matches I've seen on AEW TV. Did you feel that way when they were really getting into a stretch there?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I'll save my thoughts for the end, though.
All right, well, then save it for the end. I will say one of the better, at least one of the best singles matches I've seen, because it was two guys. You knew who the heel was, you knew who the babyface was, and except for a little bit of Sammy's acrobatics, it wasn't too much until. Did you see the over of Sammy off the top over the rail cannonball?
Of course.
That's when I got mad. Because that was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen done. Not only to risk for a spot that nobody's going to remember tomorrow. It's not Mick Foley going off the Hell in a Cell, because it's not Mick Foley and The Undertaker. It's not a hot company with a big viewership. It's going to be played over and over, millions of people every week. It's a fucking Wednesday night show that's going to draw about 800,000 people. MJF shouldn't have stood there for it because Sammy came like a cannonball, but Sammy could have fucking broke anything. He not only off the top rope, over the guardrail, but into the people. And these are not the paid job guy fans now. These are actual real fans now, correct? They're letting back in the building.
I believe so. I mean, some of the recent shows have had some of the students and whoever at ringside, but I didn't see this week.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of fucking Ned-looking motherfuckers with their cell phones trying to take a picture of this shit, and they didn't look like the paid fans. Even though sometimes you can't tell the AEW talent roster from the fans. But in the fans, somebody could have caught a foot or an elbow or a knee at that velocity and caved their face in, knocked their teeth out, landed on somebody's leg, broken ankle, whatever. They didn't have that much room, even though the people are all smart, so of course they parted because they knew what was coming. They were out there amongst chairs and fans. Here's a little fucking I've always said this at any wrestling promotion I've ever worked, OVW, Ring of Honor, TNA, anywhere you had these young guys that thought they should do this shit. I got news for you guys. As soon as you get a lawsuit from one of these fans who's all fun and games, and boy, I love it when they get their sweat and blood on me until I get hurt and I realize this is national television and the company is owned by a billionaire, and then they find an attorney. I don't even need to call Stephen P. New right now to say that if the judge hears, okay, you were injured by a wrestler, and the self-same wrestler that you were injured by came over the guardrail into the audience area of the arena. Case closed. Guilty, pay up. That's it. That's exactly what is going to happen. The first time that one of these fucking fans gets hurt and they realize how much money is behind this thing, and they get a lawyer that's worth anything at all. It doesn't even have to be Stephen P. New, just any klutzy lawyer. If the fan came over the rail and got landed on in the process of trying to attack the wrestler, there's still times that juries would award damages, but that throws things into question. But if the wrestler went over the guardrail and into the audience area, you just lost your fucking case, you fucking idiots. And I don't think any of these guys have that much money, but Tony Khan does. Anyway, that's why that's stupid. Not only because they could have got hurt, but also they could have shut the company down. Anyway, so he rolls MJF back in. He goes up on top, but MJF crotches him on the top rope, goes up, picks Sammy up, upside down, and gives him a tombstone pile driver off the middle turnbuckle Not just a tombstone pile driver off the middle turnbuckle, but into the middle of the ring, and probably the best looking one I've ever seen, and covered him for a 2 count.
Right there. Right there, I was like, what an amazing finish. Oh,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because MJF was winning the fucking thing anyway. And holy shit. Maybe they'll do an injury angle with Sammy. 1, 2, kick. Now then, both of them started selling it like death after the kick out. So that's when I did this. I threw my pen down. I closed up my pad. I said, they have now officially not only turned me off of MJF, but made me quit watching what I considered up to this point one of the better matches I had seen on this crummy, phony, silly, stupid television program. And I was done. I have a question to ask you, and that is, because I see there was 10 minutes left on the air when that happened, and they started selling, and all of their momentum fell apart, and the great match they were having had already come to an end, so I quit caring. Was MJF still limping? And was Sammy's neck still broken by the time they ever actually got to the fucking finish?
Yeah, no, a lot of things. I mean, it was incredible. Sammy kicked out of a Tiger driver off the roof of the building. And then it was just incredible. They went on.
That's how I missed the fucking Jim Ross's comment at first. I'd heard about it, and I went back to look for it, and my DVR cut it off anyway. But
after,
how did they go another 10 minutes?
They didn't go another 10 minutes. They went another 4.5, 5 minutes, and then there was a video package to celebrate the little over a year they've been in Jacksonville, because they're ending their run in Jacksonville. So it's a tribute to all the moments of Dynamite in Jacksonville.
But what you're telling me is after the guy took a tombstone pile driver off the second turnbuckle into the middle of the ring, he got up and continued on. And for about another 5 minutes. And then I know MJF won it because I read the results. But how did he win it? What, was a bazooka? A hand grenade?
I don't even remember what the finishing was, but nothing like a tombstone pile driver off the rope to the middle of the fucking ring. You're right. It was the best one I've ever seen. I've never seen one look that fucking good. And it was a 2 count.
I was like, holy shit. Well, they dropped the count on this when they pulled out all the stops. 1, 2, kick. What? I mean, I would have been mad if they'd hit that finish and not taken Sammy off television for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks just to sell it. But for that to not be the finish, no, that it's... And now, and MJF's mind has apparently been poisoned. Why would he do that knowing the guy was going to kick out? Why would you do that to somebody knowing they were going to kick out of it? How much weaker could you possibly be made to look than you do that to a motherfucker and you can't beat him? You can't even hold him down for 2 seconds. Fucking hell.
What I was going to say before when you went to me, and it hit me when I saw the MJF promo earlier in the show. And you didn't ask me my thoughts after you reviewed that promo.
Apologize for
that. No. I'm glad I could do it here. I've kind of lost it for MJF. And it pains me to say that because he was one of the people I looked forward to the most.
Yeah.
And I thought of the most potential early on in AEW. And he's certainly a really talented guy. And look, I always root for another Jew from Nassau County. I always I look out for my people. But I don't take him seriously anymore, and I see there's an element of performance in everything, but I see what he's doing now as more performance than ever before based on the way he's been used.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
I used to really look forward to his stuff and want to see it, and there's a taint on it now, and I don't know, it hit me.
He has the hint of taint. He has the hint of taint upon him.
The taint of Jericho, maybe, but I don't know, but this was the night it really hit me that, I'm kind of over MJF.
Because it's always going to be the same thing. You're going to see him wrestle a match, cheat to win in some kind of way. He won't have another match for 3 months. He'll do a lot of promos, but nothing that he ever says comes true. As Butch Reed said, he's selling wolf tickets. He's crying wolf. The promo is great. until you realize that the promo is great every time, but he never does anything that he says he's going to do. And if he does get heat, then by the next week, he's going to have his head flushed in the toilet. And so now we've unfortunately seen that he's ineffective in anything.
Yeah, and to go back to that Jacksonville video, they go to that, and they went to that first episode they did in Daly's place. Remember, the lights were out, and Cody was in the ring, and eventually Omega came out, and one of the Bucks to talk about. Cody says it. I mean, it's in the video, how important what they do is for people. That's why they're going to keep doing it. And I'm thinking when they're showing that, I'm thinking they're leaving out Cody saying, what we're doing is really important. We're going to keep doing it. And I'm going to work 1 out of the next 12 months. What I mean is these guys are going to work. I'm going home. What a non-entity. The show opens up with that video of all the stars of AEW. The first 2 out of the first 3 are Brandy and Cody. What? They're never here. But no, I'm kind of past MJF, the Jericho Inner Circle. You know, the stupid thing is,
I said it earlier in the show. If they had started 2 years ago and just given him win and promo and put some heat on him and built it, he would be one of the most talked about guys in the business, because he was before he went there. Everybody was saying this guy's the future. And now we who have been genetically predisposed to like this guy can't even get any fucking relief.
You know, I would have done something like Piper's Pit. And
yes,
a lot of people forget what Piper's Pit truly was, because you watch a WWE interview show, these endless, awful, scripted, bad comedy segments, they go on and on and on.
And the host is irrelevant.
Right.
It's just an excuse to get the other people out there to do their scripted material. Piper's Pit was a vehicle for Roddy Piper to verbally eviscerate and humiliate anybody that was put in front of him.
And how long did it go? What was the longest Piper's Pit? 2.5 minutes?
4 minutes, probably.
Yeah, you kept it short.
Except for the thing with Morton Downey Jr. that time that everybody in the office despised and were trying to get cut off when it was happening.
Yeah, that was awful. That was WrestleMania 5. That was his big return.
But that's because Piper couldn't control it because it was a guest celebrity. With the boys, he knew what he was doing, and he came out. It was a vehicle to get Roddy Piper over, not a talk show to get other people's angles over.
But I had high hopes for MJF, and look, he's still young, and we'll see. They all do stupid shit.
He's still young, but this company is aging people fast.
Yeah, we'll see how he recovers from it, but I've kind of, I don't know, not one of my favorites anymore. I've kind of lost it for him, and I said it last week. They're obviously aggressively trying to push Sammy as the breakout star of the Inner Circle now. I don't know if it's the time. We'll see. There's a lot of good young baby faces right now in AEW. They're not going to do more with Pillman Jr. probably, but I think they should find a way to put him on the road to that. Jungle Boy's obviously a young babyface getting a push. Darby's a young babyface getting a push. We'll see where Sammy falls into that mix there. Moxley hasn't been around it for a few weeks, but that could be paternity leave now that I think about it.
I thought you were going to say a paternity suit.
No.
He's trying to avoid being served.
It could be paternity leave. It could, I mean, legitimate.
Well, I'm sure it is. And I'll tell you what, hopefully he'll come back from the giving birth in better shape.
I'll just say, last week on the Drive-Thru, we reviewed the Saturday night AEW show, and I was pretty angry about it. I hated it. I didn't like watching it. And I expressed that, and a lot of people related, which was nice to see. I didn't watch this AEW show until this morning as we're recording. I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
I never do until 30 minutes before we record this show.
I always did. I always tried to watch as much of it live as I could. Sometimes I would have to run out. I would try to catch first 30 minutes, DVR the rest. But I always tried to catch it live, or at least watch it later that night before I went to bed or early the next morning. So I was up on everything that happened before clips started going around or I started checking in with social media. This was the first week I was just like, fuck it, I really just don't want to watch. And I waited until the very last minute. And I admit I do want to see AEW on the road in different places. I do want to see the reaction in different places and different things, but this show is really not, I don't enjoy really very much about this show at all. I'd be very okay if we stopped watching it.
Well, it's what we always wanted and what we were promised, a sports-based presentation of an alternative product to the silly cartoon world of the WWE. And I'm just waiting until they get all the trailers out of the way and finally give us the product that we were promised.